It's great to be here, Sonu, and I've been going through your work, and we also stock your books in our stores. And so, yes, it's great to read about Indian family businesses because that's the backbone of India's economy. But before we start, I always do this. This is a little off topic, but just a request. Wherever I go, even if it looks a little tacky, I always carry my water bottle. So if all of us make it a habit to carry our own water bottles, imagine how much single-use plastic we're going to save. So excuse my digression, but I think it's an important message for our own good. So now we'll come back to business, right? So my first question, what drives you to write about family businesses?
Well, unfortunately, we have only 30 minutes and I can spend only 5 minutes talking about it. But, family businesses are, and the work that they do is actually very close to my heart. Because I do believe that family businesses are the unsung heroes of our economy. We know that, they exist around us, but we don't give them the due in terms of acknowledgement and most importantly, the respect that is due to them. And let me just tell you why is it that we don't respect family businesses in the same quantity or context that we should. So let me just go back before independence. India has always had family businesses. There's a whole caste in the forecast which is about businessmen, the Banya category. So India has always had family businesses. Before independence, the businessman was allowed to work by the British masters in a manner that he wanted. There were some exploiters. Of course, the outliers are there. But by and large, the Indian businessman understood the dependence that he had on the workers and the employees, and therefore there was a very healthy symbiosis that existed between them. So if you were a businessman pre-independence, and I'm talking of say before the mid-40s, before the provisional government came in, before independence, you were actually celebrated. You were not looked down upon. But then what happened is that after independence, the mindset of the government became socialistic. And in fact, it was, as my research has shown when I write about the entrepreneurs who built India, it was when the provisional government came in that the mindset started changing. And the businessmen were looked upon with suspicion. And the politicians made it a point to treat businessmen with a little bit of disdain. And in fact, my next book is about Lala Shri Ram, and Lala Shri Ram in one of the FICCI meetings actually told Mahatma Gandhi, who was sitting in the audience, that why do you want money from me? Why does the Congress want money from me? If a lawyer earns a large amount of money, if a doctor earns a large amount of money, if anybody else earns a lot of money, they are actually welcomed by the Congress. But if a businessman earns money, you all treat us, with a lot of suspicion and disdain. So the businessman, because the environment in India at that time was socialistic, the businessmen also tried to hide their wealth. And then came these huge taxes, when there was the tax of 97% at one time, or even more if you included the wealth tax. So people had to actually find innovative ways to make sure that they had money, and therefore black money was generated, which again led to people looking down on businessmen. And the Bollywood movies at that time, they did their own bit in promoting this image, because if you look at the movies of 50s and maybe even 60s, the businessman was always shown as one wearing a shiny suit, boot, and like with polished shoes, and leading a debauched life, and was invariably a smuggler. So people were encouraged to think that businessmen are bad people. And if anybody, people passing out of colleges wanted to work for the government, wanted to work wherever, and if they went and worked for a businessman, the family kind of kept quiet about it. And if somebody from a service background wanted to start a business, the family kind of said, it's the end of our reputation. So over decades, this image of a businessman as being a bad character, as somebody who doesn't pay taxes, as somebody who smuggles, as somebody who leads a debauched life, just went on being perpetuated. And it was only after 91 that this image started changing. But the respect and the acknowledgement that family businesses deserve is not given to them, was not given to them. And the more that I work in this area, the more I believe that, the businessmen lead, we just see we see their trappings of success. We see them living in, good houses, wearing good clothes, having glitzy weddings for their children, but they don't know what sacrifices they have made. They don't know what hardships they've gone through, the failures that they have had to get to the stage where they are. So through my writings, I just want to bring out the people behind the businesses, and also to tell the story, including the hardships that they have gone through, including the failures that they have gone through, so that people realize that what they see has not come easy, that there is a huge amount of work that has gone inside.
Yeah, because the perception is that at one level what you're saying, that they thrived despite the challenges. The other perception is the tainted one, that while some would see them as heroes, but some would say them as villains, because pre-91 we had the licensed Raj, and a lot of these family businesses thrived in that licensed Raj, and maybe it also served their interests, or as the perception goes, that let the licensed Raj continue, because now we've cornered a part of the economy. Only 2 of us or 3 of us have the license to make scooters or cars or some of the other stuff, right? Why let anybody else come in, because we can make profits at will? So,
Yeah.
Who are they?
Yeah, so 2 contradictory points. You're absolutely right, that before 91, it was who you knew was more important than what you do, right? And yes, it was important that you knew the right people to get the licenses, but it still took entrepreneurial spirit to set up factories, large factories, to employ people, to get into manufacturing, to sell products. So they had a choice. I mean, they could have said, I don't want to do business in this manner. But if they're businessmen, they did find ways by which to make sure that they did businesses. And yes, it is absolutely right that people who knew the right people got more licenses. All that changed after 91. What was your second question?
Yeah, so this is what I was, what are the heroes or villains?
No, so they're not, okay, so I won't generalize it. So, I come from the corporate world where year end we do this bell curve, so using the bell curve, there are outliers on both sides. So no matter which country you look at, no matter which part of the world you look at, there will always be people who will be villains, people who will beat the system, people who will do business the wrong way. But in most of my dealings, I don't think I've come across businessmen who get up every morning with the thought कि आज देखते हैं कैसे cheat करा जाए लोगों को या कैसे cheat करा जाए government को. By and large, people want to do business the right way, I think it is up to the government and the people who make the laws to help them do business the right way.
So you got acquainted with the likes of Gujarmal Modi and the earlier generations vicariously, and you would have got acquainted with the current generations in person or through people who still know them. Do you see like a difference in personalities, both as individuals as well as professionals?
Between the people that I write about and their next generation.
Yeah, the current generation and the earlier founders, the earlier generations. Do you see a difference?
Is there a difference? So there is always a difference between the patriarch or the founder and the inheritors or people who inherit the business. The founder of the business, is actually driven by far more fire in the belly than the inheritors. I mean, if you look around yourselves, you look at yourselves, we all come, I think a lot of us, I won't say all of us in this room, but I think a lot of us grew up in the 70s and the 80s when things were not as liberal business-wise as they are today. So, the value that we attach to money, is very different from the value that our kids attach to money, right? So that is a little bit of a difference that I see between the first generation and the second or the third generation. But the spirit of entrepreneurship and the willingness to do business, I think वो gets passed on. वो क्या कहते हैं हिंदी में ना घुट्टी में पिलाई जाती है. They have a different mindset when it comes to business. And they may do business, using more of technology or more of that. But business is in their blood, definitely.
So pre-91, right, a lot of families, established the business, whether it's the Modis, whether it's the Tata, and so many families, they set a foundation, going back decades. What are the 1 or 2 or 3 traits that you would quickly identify where the later generations, at one level, some of these family businesses really grew and expanded, and some of them either stagnated or even went down, right? But all of them had one thing in common: they had the foundation to go off on any trajectory. So what traits did you see where that led to success and that led to stagnation?
Yeah. So so there's one. You did talk about the fact that when there was the license Raj, there were people who were successful who are no longer successful. So one is that people who refuse to change and accept the new reality kind of withered away. But for each family business, I think the family value plays a very, very important role. And again, it has been my experience that families who are true to their family value will thrive. Any family or any generation that actually goes against the family value will have a lesser chance of succeeding. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm not saying A particular value is good or B particular value is bad. And I think the best example that I can give without again being judgmental, you talked of the Tatas, right? So the Tatas are known for a certain value system, right? You have the Reliance. Reliance is also known for a particular value system. Tatas have succeeded because they have continued to follow their values. Reliance has succeeded because they have continued to follow their values. Imagine if the Tatas tried to, do their business using Reliance values, or Reliance tried to do business using Tata values. Again, I'm being totally non-judgmental. They are not going to succeed because that is what defines that family. So whichever family you look at, whether it is an MSME, SME, emerging corporate, a large corporate, they all have a family value. And that is something that the inheritors try to keep the values are kind of perpetuated, and that is the legacy more than the actual business that family businesses, business owners leave behind.
So I'm going to ask you one question with a longer answer, and then we'll have a little rapid fire, right? So I think the challenge in biographical writing of any kind in India is there's a very strong reticence in, kind of giving it all out. Like our personal values, what happened in our personal lives, the divorces that happened, the money that was split, the hidden secrets of businesses, the nuance that what readers are looking for in the books, the perception is that's missing because we hold it back. And when you hold that, and I'm not saying it from a juicy or a gossip point of view, because that's where the true learning is, that's where the real stuff is. Right? So obviously, as a biographer, you would have had those challenges. One is access to information, and part two is, you do stumble upon the information because as a journalist, we would. I've gone through that. But then you know that somewhere it's unpublishable, right?
Yeah.
So how do we make writings like these very, very endearing and kind of attractive for readers?
Yeah, so you use the word that you stumble upon secrets. Yeah. My experience has been in the 4 books that I've written, I don't have to stumble. People are very open when it comes to talking, right? So they talk, they are very open about talking about their failures, about things that haven't gone right with them, things that have gone wrong. Their friends also talk about, if I write biographies or if I write stories and I talk to their family and friends and acquaintances, they're also very happy to talk about it. When it comes to writing, and I do write about all of it, run into 2 challenges. One is when I send back the manuscript or the excerpts for a factual check, when I'm quoting people, I have to make sure that I've quoted it right. People who've said certain things, withdraw it. Because they've said it, they know that it was being recorded because I record all conversations with my, little tape recorder on the table, so it's not clandestine taping. But when they see it, when they see what they have said, they invariably call me back and say, but I didn't mean that, and I don't want it to go out in that particular manner. I have to then change it, right? The other is, if there is anything controversial that is written which may have been told to me, which I may have found out during my research, the legal department of the publisher has to vet it. And I think it is the legal department of the publisher that is very, very cautious, because nobody wants, any problems with anyone later on. So sometimes it gets chopped off because of legal constraints. Very few, but the corporate communication teams of these people also then come into their beings. So without taking a name, I had written the story of a woman business owner. And she had shared, personal details, and which brought out the fact that, she was a woman. I mean, she is a woman. She approved the manuscript. Factually, she said there's nothing wrong. But the corporate communications team, they put a red line through it, that we don't want any association with any gender. And I had this whole argument with them that she's okay, publisher's okay, I'm okay, what is your problem? They said, we'll withdraw it. We will then tell you not to use that particular story in your book. What to do?
Okay, the journalist in me will answer differently.
I'm not a journalist.
Yeah.
I'm an author.
Yeah, and because you have your dependency on your publisher, I guess that's where the the final stumble is. So
No, the publisher had no issue.
I'm saying, like, eventually their legal department, right? So yeah, we can have a longer conversation on that, but I'm also keeping an eye on the clock there. So I think let's switch off all cameras and mobiles and all and put the mic away. Tell me one thing you wanted to write, but you did not write in the book.
Well, if I wanted to write, but I did not write, that I will not tell you. But yeah, if it is not being recorded, then I can talk about it, which was told to me, and which was fine. So when I wrote the book on the owner of Berger Paints, very few people know that they were the largest exporters out of India during the 80s. I mean, their business was incredible. I mean, they found it incredible, and they had regular run-ins with the, let me just call them authorities, Russian authorities. Every meeting of theirs with the trade department had one guy sitting just passively, just observing, maintaining a file on the Dhingras. They were the KGB. And this, I could not use that name of the authority.
Thank you, Sonu. That was brilliant.
Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah.
Thank you.